Welcome. Today we are doing our 8th episode of our Life Story series produced by Barrie Community Media. Today we're speaking with Angela Vos. Angela is a fellow warrior mom and advocate for Moms Stop the Harm. And Angela is also the founder of Justice for Jordan. So welcome today, Angela, and thank you for being here today and sharing part of your story with us.
Thank you for having me here and talking about Jordan.
Do you want to share a little bit about Jordan growing up?
Jordan was like a vibrant kid. He always had like so many friends because he was like a big skateboarder. He was outside from like first thing in the morning to the sun come up till last thing at night doing kick flips and all of these crazy activities. So we finally got him a dirt bike because that's what he wanted. So then it was the dirt bike. But his friends and his big friend group really came from the skateboarding. And that's what his friends remember most about him is him and his skateboard. Because downtown, he'd be flying downtown or down Collier Street. He'd get a good run from there and he could ride himself all the way to the south end to where we lived at the time. So he was like so much fun with that. And he still has a huge mineral collection. He did rocks. He'd pick up rocks. He'd figure out where that they came from. He's got like them labeled with all their different minerals. He's got a huge collection of things like that. But it was the skateboarding that the kids would remember about Jordan and what brought in that vast friendship group that he had.
Yeah. Ryan was a little bit more quiet. He didn't have a huge group of friends, but he had a small group of really close friends. He loved hockey, always liked hockey growing up. Playing hockey, would go outside and play road hockey with his friends, and Tom would go out and play with them and everything like that. Tom was like a big kid at heart and always was playing with all the neighborhood kids, and all the kids would always be at our house. Ours seemed like to be the house to hang out at. And he loved WWF, wrestling, Hulk Hogan and stuff. He would have loved to wrestle with his dad or his grandpa, and loved the Ninja Turtles. Loved the Teenage Ninja Turtles and eating pizza. And he was an old soul too, though. Like he loved watching westerns with my dad. He would sit down and watch the old western movies with my dad and listen to old classic country like Johnny Cash and Kenny Rogers. And Ryan and me used to line dance in the living room together, and we would have karaoke nights, like family karaoke nights every Friday night with pizza, and we used to do our country music duets together. And he loved to perform for his family. He was a magician. He would do magic shows for us all the time.
I would sing songs like Jordan's mom has got it going on, and he gets so mad at me.
Yeah. It's so funny. Ryan loved animals his whole life. He thought he was going to be a vet until he got to junior high when you have to dissect the frog, and he couldn't bring himself to do it. And that's kind of when his goals changed, because he was an avid reader and writer. And so then he actually went to school for journalism. But after a year, realized that wasn't for him because he couldn't just stick to the facts. He was more of a creative. His imagination would wander, and he wanted to add to the stories, and So he got his degree in Celtic studies because he was so proud of his heritage and wanted to learn all he could about that, and got his master's in information and library science because he was such a bookworm and an avid reader, and he really believed in freedom of information and freedom of access to information for people, and that was huge for him.
That was a big one for Jordan, too. He was always talking about freedom of information, and because he had done time in jail, the segregations, the only advocacy that Jordan was really on was about the segregations and stuff like that. And he was one of the people that was on that lawsuit previous to him passing away that's still ongoing. Mm-hmm. They haven't fully finished that lawsuit, though I believe some people have been paid out for those segregations. That was the only thing Jordan ever advocated on. He said that he realized that in Canada we don't really always treat people all that nice, and that we could do better for people. And that was before his time in segregation.
Yeah.
So, and then when he'd done time in segregation, he was like, Mom, I was advocating for the right thing. This is terrible how people are treated. And
yeah, it's amazing, right? Like how they know, right? Like, yeah. And Ryan was like that, like always advocating for, like important human rights issues and stuff like that, right? And like how people, had a right to, have information and, that people should be treated.
Jordan was doing college for gas fitter, but he wanted to do a gas fitter's license because he wanted to be able to travel around and work. He's like, I can't just sit in one place. He's like, I don't know how people do that every day. So I was like, well, you need a traveling job then, like Glenn has, because you need to keep things obviously busy for you. And he was like, yeah, okay, but I'm not going to be like a welder like Glenn because he works extremely hard and I don't want to work so hard.
That's funny.
Yeah, so he wanted to do a gas fitter because he figured he wouldn't have to work so hard. What a sin.
Well, he wanted to have balance in his
He
life,
wanted balance.
Right?
Well, he wanted the snowboarding.
Yeah.
If he's working out there, he could still and check out every skate park on his way. Well, he had it all planned out. If I'm working here, I got all the skate parks and I've got all the BMX tracks and things like that. He only cared about his sports, his snowboarding, his skateboarding. I mean, really everything else was just to fit in with society.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan was more of an arts guy. So he did do hockey, but then once he picked up the guitar for the first time, that's where he concentrated on his music. And he loved playing guitar. He was a lifelong learner. He self-taught himself so many, instruments and stuff like that. He played the harp, he played the Irish flute and, violin and,
I admire people that can play. And just even read music. Like, I just...
And he used to write and lyrics and stuff like that. And, just a writer and calligraphy. He used to write me letters in calligraphy and stuff like that, but he would write them in like Gaelic and stuff like that. And those I treasure those letters that he wrote for me. Yeah,
I still have all my letters like that too. That's awesome. Yeah. I wrote all my mom's letters in calligraphy and stuff in high school and like poetry and stuff like that. I still have a lot of them. She still has a few on her wall too.
Oh yeah. It's so precious to have those things now, right?
It is.
You don't even realize how precious these little things are going to become.
Well, I have my calligraphy set up in my house, and when the kids have come over, they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
They've never seen it, and when I actually start writing with it, and they see how pretty it is, they're always intrigued, and they'll, a couple letters here and there and whatever. The attention span of the kids today is not what it was when I was a kid. I'd spend the days learning it, but they come in and do a half an hour, and then they're finished with it. But I've got Jordan's name a couple of times where he was practicing writing his name beautifully.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I've framed those in the photo album now.
As Ryan got older, he was into hockey before, but then he was into martial arts. When he got older, and he studied martial arts, and he actually, I remember he did self-defense classes with me and his sister in the living room because he felt we should know how to take care of ourselves if we ever encountered, a bad situation when we were out alone. And I remember one summer he did ninja school in the backyard for his nieces and nephews, and he was teaching them all these ninja moves and everything. But it wasn't just like the martial arts, there was the mindful part of it too, because he had to do the meditation and the mindfulness too, because he was such a wise person, and he did practice mindfulness and that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool that he would do that with all the kids. Jordan would get around the kids, and he was just like playtime. The kids loved when Jordan came over. He'd be on his knees chasing them around, and he loved kids. So, yeah. But no teaching.
No.
He thought that was cruel.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ryan loved to share his wisdom with the kids, and he treated kids like they were, on
Well, that stuff is cool to learn, right?
Yeah, for sure. Irish stick fighting that was cool too. He was teaching us Irish stick fighting. Yeah, which is kind of really neat.
Jordan got me doing kick flips on a skateboard.
Oh, yeah.
And he taught me how to snowboard, too.
That's cool.
I mean, I was 33 years old when I learned, so he was like, you can do it, Mom. And I was like, I don't know, but he's like, you have to because I bought it for you.
Yeah.
So I had to go because he paid for the rental and bought it for me for Christmas. So I had to try it, and I fell in love and never, ever put my skis back on since. It's always been snowboarding, so...
That's cool. Yeah, so I guess I'm not musically inclined because Ryan has a lot of patience, and he did try to teach me guitar, but he gave up. A few people gave up on trying to teach me guitar. I just, not my thing. But I still haven't given up on it. One day.
So long as you don't give up, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Start over a million times. It's okay.
For sure.
At least you're not like me. I don't even know how to read it, so
no,
can't figure out the notes. I'll dance with you.
Yeah,
I'll figure that out for you.
Yeah.
Jordan's my 26-year-old son. He died in Lindsay Correctional Center, Central East. His death was quite horrific, but even before his death, the leading up to what had happened to Jordan was quite traumatic for our family for about a year and a half. But his ending event, we actually asked for help. That's why we put Jordan to where he was and never got to see him again. Before all this, Jordan was like a vibrant, smart, intelligent young boy that was just manipulated by the wrong people and the wrong crowds on a regular basis. We'd pull him back and he would do really well with us for a while, but then, something would just pull him back into that world. And he just kept saying, Mom, there are demons in my brain. I just can't get rid of that. He said, throw away your cigarettes and see how long you go. And I'd try that, and I'd be like, yeah, it's hard. I understand addiction. I understand those things. Just cigarettes aren't going to kill me, right? And what you're doing is going to kill you and hurt other people. And he would try and try and try, and so many times he had quit and then relapse. It was just a horrible experience for us. But he was a great kid, fun and loving, and I'm going to be with my mom and, crazy things that he would do. And we had a really good relationship. Fun.
Yeah. It's hard to be without him.
It is hard because he was my sunshine. You know what I mean? You crazy mom, mess up my hair. And I'd be like, oh, no, Jordan, don't mess up my hair. But God, please mess up my hair now. You know what I mean? I really miss his craziness. He's bouncing around all the time. The energy, the vibrance, the love.
And it's really hard, right? Like the things that you miss. Yeah. It's not the things that you would think that you would miss, right? Some of the things that maybe annoyed you when they were here, you're like, oh, what I would just give for, a 3 a.m. phone call because he's out of smokes or something like that, just to hear that
all
voice.
The things that made me angry are the things that I miss. And I'm like, why do I miss him doing this?
Yeah.
But I just miss him in general. And I think as a soul, we just look for that. We look for whatever it is to get a piece of them back. And it's the bad things, too, because you have to take the good and the bad together. And those 3 a.m. calls where I'm Mom. Yeah. That's my 3 a.m. call. Yeah. That doesn't belong to anybody else. And that's a special phone call when your kid calls at 3 a.m., whether it's for cigarettes or because they got in trouble. Yeah. It's sucks, but it's Mom. That's your role. And you're proud to have that.
Yeah. It means you're their safe place. You're their safe person that they know no matter what, they can always count on you to be there, right?
It is such a prideful thing, right?
For sure.
To be that phone call for them.
Yeah, for sure. Can you maybe share a little bit about Jordan's struggle with the mental illness and the substance use? You talked about the demons in his head, so he was self-medicating to deal with what was going on mentally for him?
Yeah, he was really got to the point of psychosis. He had been arrested, but the charges weren't actually Jordan's charges, and it had family relations to it. When I bailed him out and brought him home, Jordan hadn't been using for almost 2.5, 3 years, and his behaviors just became undeniably something I have never seen before, even working in group homes, beating himself up, punching himself in the face, throwing himself downstairs. And I would call the police, like, I need mental health backup here because I don't know what's going on with my child. And not once did it come up that he could have been using any substances or anything. Everybody just kept saying, like, what is this psychosis? What is going on? And even when he went into the hospital, stayed there for 2 full weeks, he was released with no medication. And I was thinking, like, whoa, wait, I'm going to bring this kid home that's just had these extreme psychotic events. He has no meds. They won't tell me anything. And by the end of the weekend, Jordan had overdosed. I found him dead at 4 o'clock in the morning and revived him. One of my bigger nightmares is smashing his ribs. I put a book under, I couldn't get him off the bed because he had a big room and there was just no space. And I remember trying to pull him off the bed and I just couldn't. I couldn't get the strength to get him out of this sunk hole that he had himself in. And I picked up his shoulder and threw a book underneath and just started doing compressions. And I remember smashing his ribs and thinking, oh my God, like, am I going to kill him trying to revive him? And screaming to my husband, and my husband's, what are you doing? I was like, this is the only way to get him to come back. And then the paramedics came in and said, well, you saved his life. You got his heart going. And they lost him again on the way to the hospital. He died for another 20 minutes. When I got to the hospital, they put me in a little room and locked me in there. And it was like, I've been in the medical field. I know what this little locked room is all about. And I felt like I wasn't coming out to my son. Mm-hmm. And when I did come out and he was hooked up to all these machines and they were like, well, you know, his chance of living is very, very slim to none. And I just reached up to God and I said, listen, I don't ask for much. Help me today. Help him. Because he doesn't deserve any of what he suffered. And I sat with him in the ICU unit, and I talked to the doctor who had a really bad stigma already, and I said he had cardiac arrest, and he said opioids. And I looked at him and I was like, what, are you freaking crazy? Are you labeling us? I was so mad because to my knowledge, there was none of this. I didn't know what was going on with my child. I didn't know why I was facing this terrible stigma when I was in the ICU unit. I left that night because I was erratic. I didn't think I could control my behavior. So I left that night and I left my dad and Jordan's father with him. And I came home and I went through the house and looked for things because he said opioids. I'm looking for things. I'm like, this man is crazy. Like, he's saying opioids. There's nothing in this room. There's no pills in my home. I was ripping things apart, just unbelievably, but couldn't find nothing. The next morning I went into the hospital and stayed with Jordan for the next 3.5 months. I only left for a shower and went through all the protocol with the family all coming there because they thought he had a heart attack and everybody would visit him. But then the evidence came out that it was fentanyl. And everyone stopped visiting, stopped calling, stopped checking on us. And then I realized the stigma that I was dealing with. But you know what? There was a doctor there, Dr. Chris, I believe his name was, and he came on duty, and he was the one who told me about the fentanyl and said, no, listen, this lady needs a bed. We're treating her like crap, and this isn't her fault. So he gave me a bed, and the nurses really started treating me good, and they were still really with the stigma with Jordan, but they didn't have to do anything for Jordan. I took over all of his care, showers, absolutely everything. His pills, his meds, they would just kind of drop things off to me and let me know when my time was that I could use the showers. I brought him home, and we thought he was going to do great. We asked him about addictions and all that kind of stuff. Mom, you're crazy after everything I just went through. Why would I need something like that? He says, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore. And I thought, well, we're clear. We're good. We're not going to have to worry about this again. And I mean, that's a naive way for me to think in a lot of ways because I know better. My mom was an alcoholic. I suffered with alcoholism through my whole life with family members. I know that that's not real. And when something bad happens, you should really watch out for these people that have had these problems. And when Nicky died, his girlfriend, or his ex-girlfriend at the time, he suffered. He stayed in bed for almost 6 days, bawling his eyes out, only got up for the funeral. And then these behaviors started again. He started beating himself, throwing him down the stairs, like just head-to-toe bruises, unbelievable behaviors. He'd leave the house, he'd come back. He did some crazy things. He even brought a gun into our house. And I mean, it wasn't a functioning gun, but it was still an intimidation factor. We forgave him, made sure he turned it in. We've done so many things with him to try to get him to the point of recognizing that he needed recovery. And he would recover again. And then a friend would die. And then he'd go through another cycle. And then another person would die, and another cycle. And the last going off with his cycle was his girlfriend had broken up with him. And he thought Lindsay was the best thing in the world that ever happened to him. And God had given him Lindsay because he had taken Nicky away. And when they broke up, it just destroyed his world again. And he went through this whole psychosis thing again of beating himself and abusing himself. And there was just no help for him. There was no place.
Did he get any help, like follow-up help when he got out of the hospital?
He refused most of everything except for the last little bit of like speech therapy, occupational therapies, all that kind of stuff. He was really determined to get his life back because he wasn't speaking well. He had to learn how to walk again. He had to learn how to talk and eat and all that kind of stuff. So he kept up with those appointments, but the second that they found out Jordan was using, even the services from addictions, all of them were canceled for him. Everything was just immediately shut down. He was no longer a part of their system. So he got no more services. And I did fight for about 6 months for it, but then after I realized, you know what, fighting for services and then him relapsing and then fighting for service and then him relapsing is just going to be an ongoing cycle until I could get him on a straight playing field.
Which is such a challenge when, you know, it's all around, right? Like it's everywhere.
Exactly.
For him to stay away from it and facing those losses.
And we did the methadone treatment and we did the Suboxone treatment. I mean, I lived in Springwater and I drive every single day to Aurelia to get his Suboxone treatments. And, you know, and then he would miss one and then there would be seizures at home because he had missed his pill and, you know, and then he'd relapse and all these different things just kept happening. It was literally 1.5 years of hell. When I look back, I'm like, how did we even survive as a family to get through what we did?
Yeah, it's amazing what we get through, right? When you look back and think, but you're in survival mode at the time, right? You're in survival mode for your child, trying to keep your child alive, and you don't even realize what you're doing and how much of your life it consumes.
Every 20 minutes, sleeping or not, I would be up and checking on him. Does he have vitals? I get friends at the door. I'd be like, okay, it's been 50. Just give me a minute. I got to go check on my son. I haven't heard from him for a while. Run upstairs. He'd be dead on the ground, and I'm reviving him again. Like, I remember him having his friend over, and he had wanted to see this lady, Liz. It's his best friend's mom. And she used to visit him quite a lot in the hospital and stuff. He was so excited to see her. She arrives, we get her set down her bags and everything. I'm like, Jordan didn't come down. It's weird. Like, he's excited to see you. Just give me a minute, okay? And then they hear me screaming out the window, call 911. He's down again. You know, and all the neighbors come then because I screamed it out the window. And then, of course, the entire neighborhood knew. And then we had to sell our house and everything because I couldn't even walk out of my house without doing this, without the scowls, without somebody giving me a dirty look or somebody saying something. I couldn't be there anymore. I just felt like all eyes were on me the second I left my house.
Yeah. So it's like I always say that mental illness and substance use, it's not a casserole illness. People are not going to come to your door when they know that your child has these issues with, casseroles and what can we do to help. It's not like if your child gets diagnosed with cancer or something. There's that stigma attached to it, and it's almost like they fear that it's contagious. It's like, okay, well, we don't want to go near them, like maybe my kid will catch this
or if I'm around that, then maybe the influence
right?
too,
it's like,
right?
Oh, this must be a bad family because like why would their child be doing this, right? So it's very lonely.
It is a lonely world.
It's lonely to be facing those issues because you not only face the stigma from the medical professionals that should be helping you, but you face it in your community, in your own family sometimes. There's that judgment, right? And it comes down to lack of education, lack of, awareness, right? Like
at first I wanted to dig my
ignorance.
head in the ground. I wanted to be an ostrich. Honest to God, I pray to God, just let me put my head in the ground for a little while just to get away from the shame. I'm not ashamed anymore. I've educated. I know what I'm dealing with now. I wish I had educated for past family members a little bit more and not stigmatized who they were. I feel really bad and very guilty for the way that I've treated some people in the past because I had my own judgment. I've never drank. I've never done drugs. I've never, so I guess my judgment was to belittle that so that I wasn't there. So that I never found myself in the spot that they were. So I think, in a way, my judgment was to protect myself because I came from a long line of alcoholics and drug users and, people that had really fallen off of this system. So for me, I felt my judgment was to protect myself. But now that I'm educated, I'm like, no, you weren't protecting anything but you. And it was extremely selfish of you. And now you have to evolve. Spread this education, let people know that this stigma that they put on actually makes me giggle at you.
Yeah.
Actually, it makes me happy now because I'm like, you know what, you're uneducated. And if you're proud to share your uneducation, I'm proud to let you know how uneducated you are. Let's share this pride.
Yeah.
If you're proud to share your uneducation, I'm proud to smile at you about being uneducated.
And I think that's why we need these talks are so important, is to, make people aware and to, be honest about our own journey and that we had our own stigma. We had our own, things that we were taught. And, there was misinformation and stuff. Like I grew up in a family of alcoholics. I've never been drunk in my life. Like I've never drank or used drugs or smoked anything like that. So, because it scared me. I saw what alcohol did to people and had no exposure to drugs, until Ryan's struggles. So, I beat myself up sometimes, that I wasn't as educated back then as I am now, but I can't live in that guilt. I just, I did the best that I could with the information I had at the time. And I feel that, we need to just open our minds and our hearts, and we need to learn from each other. And that's why I feel that the value of lived experience is so important. The science is important too, because, our politicians and the people that are in a position of power to make decisions over people's lives need to be making those decisions based on information and science rather than from, their own stigma and judgment and what they were brought up to believe, because that has no place in these decisions. People's lives are on the line. But as a society, we need to evolve, and we need to, educate ourselves, because it doesn't discriminate. And it could be your family, it could be your child, your grandchild, it's not just people with substance use disorder that are dying from toxic drugs. You could use drugs. You could be a teenager at a party and using drugs for your first and last time.
Yeah, I've never done drugs before.
The supply is, right?
And I've been drugged. I've been at a party and my husband has literally dragged me out vomiting because I was drugged. So, if I can at 45 years old go to a party and somebody drugs me, anybody, it could happen to absolutely anyone out there. it could happen. You don't know who's out there. You don't know who's going to be around you. I mean, I'm definitely cautious about what I do and how I drink and keep my drinks covered now. I mean, it's become almost a fear for me after being drugged that, you know, you don't even have to willingly choose to do the drugs for it to actually happen to you.
For sure. And people choose to do certain drugs, but they don't really know what they're getting.
They don't.
The drug supply is so, contaminated now, right? And that's really why we need the safe supply, because you don't know what you're getting. Ryan didn't use opioids. He used meth. That was his drug of choice. Opioids scared him, and still he died, right? That's happening more and more. It's not just people dying of opioid overdose. They're dying from stimulants and other drugs as well. And so the whole supply is toxic, and it's dangerous.
Absolutely.
And that's why we need to keep having these talks, and we need to let people know these are not numbers. These are people. These are real people. And they should still be here, and they're not.
I just think the longer we wait on decriminalization, how many millionaire drug dealers have we created that are out there and building these bigger enterprises? We are fueling an enterprise that we can't control. So now they've got all these policing and all this stuff, but you've got an enterprise out there that's way bigger than us. It's way bigger than our police, our municipalities, and all of that kind of stuff. They don't care which districts that they're playing in. They'll come across your municipality to somebody else's municipality. They don't care. They're going to go wherever the money is. Okay. And unfortunately, our children are the targets for that.
And criminalizing drugs actually costs us more money. If we treated it like a medical issue, it actually, we would be saving.
Absolutely.
Saving money. And we would be saving lives.
And
but even if you want to talk about it from a tax perspective.
You look at Jordan's 4-month journey in the hospital, how much money that journey would have cost him. Yeah. If they had have just done harm reduction to begin with, he would have had a safe supply and he wouldn't have overdosed, saving them 4 months of extreme amounts of payments for all of the services that he required.
People that are in jail for, related to drugs.
And let's talk about jail. I mean, how many recommendations are they going to make about jail and how to improve the standards of jail? But they've done nothing. None of those recommendations. I mean, all these families have lost somebody, made these crucial breakdowns of these recommendations as what I'm doing right now, and they've basically been fluffed under the carpet. None of them have been implemented. I mean, if you have a scanner at the hospital, but you don't have a tech that knows how to use it, what good is an ultrasound? Yeah. Right? I mean, and same with all their other stuff and their screening. Okay, you're screening all the people going in here, but what about the staff? Yeah. Because I know that some of your staff are drug dealers. I'm aware. And other people are aware too, but you're not targeting your people because you're protecting them because of a union. Well, I'm sorry, but do they really deserve a union if they're letting people die or bringing drugs into a facility? These are illegal actions. Yeah. How much can our unions cover illegal action? I don't understand. And to have all these $1 million equipments and stuff like that, nobody knows how to use them? That's just a slap in the face to people like me that thought that they could actually help me with my situation. Or anybody else, right?
Yeah. So, Jordan's death was traumatic and it was preventable. And you've been a vocal advocate for justice for Jordan, but also for other people that have had mental health and substance users that have been involved with the justice system. What stigma have you faced in your advocacy work?
Well, people automatically look at me. Well, Jordan had so much drugs on him. They don't recognize that was probably only a week and a half's worth of drugs. They think it's a large amount because it was a golf ball size amount. But when you break down somebody's use and how much they use, it's really not a whole lot. So, and the fact that he was already in jail, they labeled him as a drug dealer from him being there and having that quantity. Now, they've also said that Jordan would smuggle it to get into prison. Well, that was never, ever said. That was actually just put in there by a coroner that made up his own allegations. Like, what, coroners are just made allegations now? I have no idea. But that was never a statement that came. Jordan hid it from us. Of course, we didn't know about harm reduction. Every time Jordan would overdose, we would take his stuff. I would turn it into the police department. They knew who I was. I would call and say, listen, I have drugs in my car. Please don't stop me on my way. They're not mine. I'm bringing them to you. You know, I would let them know that I'm bringing them. I didn't know about harm reduction and about all that kind of stuff. So I was constantly stealing his drugs and dropping them off to police officers because I was petrified of somebody else having it. So they automatically stigmatized Jordan. He died in jail. He's a drug dealer, and we don't want to be friends with you because we feel like your son was part of the cause. Uneducated. It's an uneducated decision because every single person that has ever used substance has the ability to share with somebody else or be labeled as a drug dealer. Whether you died at home or in prison just means that I was working really hard to try to make sure your kid didn't get what Jordan had. You know, and I don't think that people should stigmatize me for that. So again, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it's okay, because I don't want to be friends with people like that. I want to be friends with people like you that understand that all of our kids are just one unit of people that are not numbers. They're all people that were loved and genuinely cared about. Irregardless of Jordan's mental health, he was still a vibrant young boy that loved to sleep with his mom. Can I stay with you tonight? Absolutely, Mom. He would sleep on my shoulder as an adult. He would love that. Just snuggle with his mom. He was like a very affectionate, lovable little boy. Really, when it came down to it, he was always my little boy.
Ryan was a mama's boy. He would not want to admit it when he grew up, but he still was. Everyone knew it. Even his friends say, yeah, he was definitely a mama's boy.
Yeah.
But like what you were saying about, you know, like I found that your circle gets smaller, you know, because there's certain people you have to cut out of your life because you know what they think about your child. And it's like, there's no room in my life for people like that, you know? If you have an open mind and you want to learn and you want to educate yourself, then fine, sit down. I'll have a conversation with you, an honest conversation. But if you're just going to hold judgment about me and my family and my child, there's no place for that in my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Like, I've cut out 90% of the people in my life probably and just said no. Unless you... But I've also opened the window. If you want to walk back into my life, become educated, sit and have a conversation with me. We'll make an appointment if you need to. I'll even hire intervention if that's what you need. But... I can't have that right now.
For sure, mine is not like 100%, you know, you're out of my life forever, but it's just like, I have to protect my own mental health. I'm still dealing with my own grief and trauma, as you are, and you only have so much energy, right? So,
and if they tell me to put my grief away, I'm sorry, but Jordan's here. Forever. And he's always just a thought away. I see a color, and it reminds me of him, a thing on the wall, and Jordan. It's continuously in my brain. It's even worse now that he's gone. Because everything, I'm looking for him everywhere.
I can't even drive around Barrie without driving past some place that reminds me of Ryan and something we used to do together or brings back a happy memory. And I feel like I'm getting to that good place now where... I'm remembering the happy stuff, which is good, more than the last few years. And even during the last few years, there was happy moments. There was a lot of happy moments. And I'm able to celebrate those more than the pain of the last few years now. So
that's nice. That's what I've come to too. Is like I stand somewhere and it's not just the sad memories anymore. I remember him giggling and laughing. And I'm treasuring them more now.
That's a blessing, right? Yeah, for sure. So what do you think we need to do to stop the stigma and to keep people from dying due to toxic drugs?
Well, I think the stigma needs to stop with the hatred that kind of goes around. And we need to accept people for who they are irregardless of whether we agree with people's lives, you don't have to be nasty about it either. You can say nothing until you've become educated enough to say something. Because by saying things and being uneducated, you're hurting people that aren't educated. And you're hurting that next person from learning the education, because they might be following you and your stigma. So the stigma stops with each and every single person that believes it. And we just need to have this conversation about who we are. We don't deserve this stigma, and that it really isn't segregated to any one type of person. There's nobody that's going to be excluded. Every type of person is included in this problem, and we need to work together and find multiple avenues to get rid of this, because it's not just one person. It's not one thought. It's
So what do you
millions
think are
of
some
thoughts.
of the solutions?
Just keeping this conversation. Why are you stigmatizing me? Why would you stigmatize somebody that's valued? I love this person. Why would you hurt this person? Why would you not want to see them succeed? Asking those questions. Because people just, why?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way? We need to find the root cause of why people are feeling that way, and then rip it apart and put it back together. Because I really believe people are kind, and that we have just learnt these bad behaviors, and that we keep following bad behaviors because we think it's cool to follow some of this stuff and not become educated because we want to be a part of everybody, right? So,
And I think a lot of it too, it's like, it's scary, right? To let go of the stigma and stuff like that, and to, because then they think you're condoning it, and they don't want to be seen that way, because then they're not going to be accepted.
one of the moms said to me, she said, well, do you really want them to have safe use, safe supply? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I really want people dying in the street? Do I really want to carry around Narcan in my car? Do I really want to have a case of it and actually use it on a regular basis? I don't like that. I would much rather them be in a place with nurses and people that could oversee their care than seeing them on the streets where nobody cares. We need to start putting care into everybody that's alive, not just the people we choose.
To be honest, what you just said though, I find people on the street care a lot more sometimes than the medical professionals are getting paid a lot of money to actually care. Like the way that the community cares for each other, the way that they look out for each other is so amazing and beautiful. Like our peer support volunteers and the people that have become involved in helping, care for the other people in the community, it's amazing.
Yeah, we're the same in Midland. Like, they'll call me and say, listen, we're at a Narcan kits. Can you drop us off somewhere?
I have that every day. I had that yesterday. We actually sadly lost someone this week. And so I had some peer support volunteers requesting, they wanted to make sure that they had enough naloxone, that it was available everywhere, because naloxone wasn't available for this person, and by the time that help arrived, it was too late. And it's a lot of people really sad in our community right now. So.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, a lot of the kids call and they know I'll just drop it off. They don't even have to. I tell them, I'll just put it at a corner.
Yeah.
You can go pick it up. I don't even have to see who you are.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to go without it. And I've signed up for that program too, where you can help people. I haven't actually gotten any calls because I'm in the middle of nowhere, but I've signed up for that too. Just, you never know where I might be, and the location services follow you, and somebody might need help on that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So,
So I know that Jordan's death affected your own mental health. Obviously, Ryan's death, the grief and the trauma of that, and the stigma that comes along with that, it affects us. How can it not? But you still continue to advocate. Where does your strength come from?
I think it's from Jordan. All of his beautiful moments and how beautiful of a person that he was Like, I know he didn't deserve to die. And I think that's where that comes from. He's like, Mom, I didn't deserve to die. I wanted to be here. I wanted to see you grow old and take care of you and keep all those promises I made for years and have you be a grandma and all those kinds of things. It's him.
Yeah, when people ask me where my strength comes from, I feel it's Ryan. I feel he's still here with me in a different way. He's here with me, but he's guiding this journey, and he's giving me the strength. And I feel that.
And I was never a bully before. Like, I was never a real pushy person. Yeah. Jordan was a pushy person. Like, he could hustle anything, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I get that hustle from him sometimes. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a Jordan moment.
Yeah.
You know, Jordan just kind of stepped into my shoes and said, oh, Mom, no, you're not taking that. You are saying something.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of feel like he's given me that power to say something.
Oh, yeah.
Don't just not say anything. Say it. Say it like it is. So I've kind of got that blunt honesty from him, out of which could be curved a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. I think I get that from Ryan, too, because he was such an advocate, and he didn't care what people thought of him. And, you know, I'm more of an introvert. I hate public speaking. But I do, whenever I'm asked to do an interview, I do it now because I know how important it was. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Ryan was really proud of me for was that I used to go and I used to share his story and our story at CIT trainings with police forces and stuff so that they could do better. And he wanted me to do that because he didn't feel ready to relive that and do that. But it was important for him that they know and that they do better, and also advocating for the SCS in Barrie, which unfortunately didn't get approved before Ryan passed, but he knew that, you know, I was fighting for that because of him and his friends, and he was really proud of that. And, you know, we're still waiting for it. Mm-hmm. So many delays, it's ridiculous, and how many lives we've lost. But yeah, it's amazing how they're still with us, and they still continue to guide the work we do, even though they're not physically present. Right?
And I don't know about you, but like I see a J somewhere or a heart somewhere. Like everywhere I go, like there's something. It's like he's trying to throw a sign out. Mom, I'm still here with you, you know. Or I see posts from other moms too, like cloud signs with their names in the cloud and stuff like that. It's just, I really believe that they're always with us.
For sure, yeah.
You know.
So what would you want to say to other moms or families who have lost loved ones? Like,
don't deal with the stigma. Don't, you know, we are here. Christine, me, Marilyn. I mean, if somebody died in jail, Yusuf has been phenomenal with a lot of things. There's lots of different programs. You need to find your warriors and your tribe, because if you don't, you're going to feel really, really sad. And the best thing for me has been finding everybody else that would stand and talk and love their children and understand, to listen to Jordan's story. And we listened to each other's story with pride, like we knew each other's children. Like I feel like I knew Ryan, like he's part of my family. Like I knew Danny, like I knew Sully, like they're part of my family now, because we are all so connected through our grief. That is, it's a beautiful family, though. It really is. It's
like through the most unimaginable, horrible thing that could ever happen to you, you meet some of the most beautiful people.
It really is. And they're people that want to hear your whole story. They don't want to just, you're talking about Jordan again. No, they're like, what was that about Jordan?
Yeah.
Or what was that about Ryan? You know, they're people that actually want to hear your stories. And that is what makes you heal. Mm-hmm. Talk, say your story. Don't hide it. Yeah. Love your child even though they're gone. Because that makes you heal. Makes you feel good about remembering them. Mm-hmm. Those smiles, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel sad for the people that are still hiding because of that stigma, that they have to go through this journey, this grief journey alone, right? And
I remember that
they're not alone.
I remember that when Jordan was going through the hospital and stuff, and then everybody heard fentanyl, and like everybody was gone. Like, I mean, at one point they're telling us, okay, you can't have so many visitors. In the next week, I'm like begging people, please come and see Jordan, spend some time with him. I need to have a shower. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that difference.
For sure.
But we had some really good people come forward, and Jordan had some beautiful friends that have been loyal since the beginning all the way through this. Like, they have been so good to me, some of these kids.
And that are still a part of your life.
Yeah.
Right? And I have that with Ryan's friends, that they're part of, you know, Ryan's hope, and they want to be continuing and doing this for Ryan, right? Because he touched their lives. And, you know, so that's a beautiful thing.
So my family grew from 1 son to 5, but that's okay because I love them all. They're all great kids, and, you know, they're treasures to me too.
Yeah,
so
wonderful. What would you like to say to those that are still struggling with their mental health, with their
one day at a time, and follow your heart, because you believe in yourself. If you just know that you believe in yourself, you really need to. Everybody else believes in you. I believe in you. Christine believes in you. And we believe that every program is not designed for you, but we'll find one for you.
Is there anything else that you want to say before we close?
I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been so supportive and wonderful, and for having me here today to talk about Jordan's story and to let people know that, you know, we are here and we are not going away, and we're going to keep talking about these things because it didn't have to happen this way.
All right. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. Thank you.